This would be a federal grant program to help states that have such protective order laws. The money would go to the states so they could hire mental health professionals and psychologists and psychiatrists to advise local law enforcement as to which cases they should go to a court regarding a danger to oneself or others. So it's not a federal law creating a federal red flag program. It is a grant program to help states, and it's got to have due process. Nobody's guns are going to be taken without a judge hearing the case. Both sides gets represented. Only the police can petition, not a private citizen. So I think it's a common sense response to the problem. All of these cases, virtually all, not completely all, have one thing in common. The people who do the shooting had real warning signs early on. And in Parkland, down in Florida, there were 40 visits by the law enforcement officers to this man's house. An FBI tip on the hotline came in that he's about to kill people, and nobody did anything, and we need to stop that.
I know there has been some local reps talking about whether it might infringe, just red flag laws infringing on liberties to begin with. How do you feel about that?
Well, due process is required. I don't think any American should want a gun in the hand of somebody who is dangerous, mentally unstable, who's threatened the neighbors, who's threatened schools. Count me in for giving the cops the ability to intervene before it's too late. Count me in to make sure that no American can have an action taken against them without due process. This is a real problem. So I'm not going to ignore it any longer. South Carolina can decide what South Carolina wants to do, but cops tell me all over the state they wish they had more tools to deal with the people that are clearly exhibiting dangerous behavior. Suicide rates have gone down where you have these laws, and we'll monitor very closely how they're enforced. But the one thing that's off the table for me is doing nothing. We've had too many people killed, too many guns in the hands of people that are clearly dangerous to just keep to do nothing. I own an AR-15. I don't feel threatened by this law at all. The only way you can seize the gun is have a judge issue an order after you have a hearing where both sides are represented. I think most Americans feel comfortable with a system that will protect law-abiding citizens but also take action regarding dangerous people. And unfortunately, there are a lot of unstable people out there, and my goal is to give the cops the tools they need to protect us.
If you could, just kind of moving forward over those weekend shootings, would you be able to comment a little bit about that? I know red flag is something you're talking about.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of things. One, online chat sites. Three of the last of the shooters met at the same website. We need to start looking at the internet and the hate it spews. These video games, the president's right about that. It's just not one thing, it's a bunch of things. And the mental health aspect of this is what I'm focusing on. I'm going to make sure that law-abiding citizens have their rights protected, but I do want to empower police and prosecutors to deal with cases of dangerous people before it's too late. I think the president wants to expand background checks. That may make sense, I don't know. But the background check problem is not the problem here. All of these people bought guns lawfully. The guy in Dayton, numerous people went to the police and the school officials saying this guy is dangerous. It's a matter of time. His writings were incredibly disturbing. I just don't want the cops to be helpless when they get information from citizens. They have to take it to a judge, and the judge has to sign off on it. But I want to give our law enforcement community a chance to act before a bunch of people get killed for no good reason.
Can you talk a little bit about the president's visits to the shooting sites and how the reaction was?
Well, number one, I'm glad the president went to these sites, and the last 3 days have been sickening in terms of the attacks against the president. He's not responsible for these shootings. The people who did the shootings are responsible. I'm not blaming any politician for the actions of these people. Could we all turn our rhetoric down? Yes, including Democrats. The attacks against the president and the first lady, I think, were unjustified. I'm glad he went. He's trying to find an answer to a bunch of problems, mental health problems associated with gun ownership, the internet and the role it plays in terms of violence. The president is doing his best, in my view, to try to heal the nation and find solutions. And unfortunately, the last 3 days have been pretty sickening from my point of view in terms of the way that President Trump's been treated.
Moving on to Mississippi over the weekend, can you talk a little bit about the raid?
Yeah, I mean, the laws are on the books, and we need to enforce the laws. We need to get order out of chaos. There are millions of people here illegally. The ones I want to focus on are the ones that are dangerous to the community. But having said that, when you hire an illegal immigrant, you're breaking the law, and we need to enforce the law.
Media's really pointing out the fact that this happened on the first day of school and left all these kids kind of hanging.
This is why we need to fix a broken immigration system. You can't do it piecemeal. We need to have order out of chaos. I don't mind people staying here if they can speak the language, pay a fine for the crime they committed of illegal entry, but I don't want 20 million, 11 million 20 years from now. If we don't change our laws, we're going to be overrun. I just got back from the border about 3 weeks ago. Our asylum laws are being abused. If you set 1 foot on American soil and ask for asylum, your hearing's 3 years down the road, nobody ever shows up. If you bring a small child to the United States, we can only hold a small child for 20 days. Since we don't want to separate families, we let them all go. This is an insane, dangerous system. I'm going to do everything I can to fix and change our laws before somebody really gets hurt. It's a matter of time till some terrorist finds a way in this network coming from Central America.
Let's take a step back. The NRA says that they're not going to support any kind of sanctions or any kind of thing about gun control, background checks.
Yeah.
Because that's a large part of his voters.
Well, here's what I think. I've been talking to the NRA about the grant program. This is a federal grant program. We're trying to build in a lot of due process. We got to do something. Most Americans have come to conclude this has gone on too long without taking some corrective action. I think the place to start is keeping guns out of the hands of dangerous, mentally unstable people. I own an AR-15. Taking my weapon away from me doesn't make us any safer. The bad guys are not going to give up their assault weapons. So the idea of banning assault weapons, take that off the table. I think the space here is to look at the mental health issues and the violence on the internet in these games, and I hope we can find common ground. The president is determined to do something. We will work with the NRA, we'll work with every group out there, but we got to move forward.
Any word as to when you might roll out that legislation?
I'm consulting my Republican and Democratic colleagues trying to build a coalition. The Toomey Manchin bill didn't get many votes from Republicans. Again, I don't see this being a background check problem more than guns in the hands of dangerous people problem. There are some people out there who exhibit behavior, who threaten their neighbors, or threaten their schoolmates, threaten their family members, who do very bizarre things. They need to be helped. And these laws are designed to allow the police to petition a court to intervene before it's too late, to get the person some help if we can.
Is it fair to say you'd like to see every state implement red flag laws?
I'd like to see us have a network of laws that make sure that law-abiding citizens are protected, but dangerous people can be dealt with before it's too late. The grant program doesn't require a state to do anything. If the state chooses, we will help. And here's what the money goes to do. The cops can hire some psychologists and mental health professionals to advise them as to what cases they need to take to court, if any. Got it?
I've got one, if you don't mind saying.
Yeah, sure.
CNBC reporting that Morgan Stanley says if the trade war escalates, we could have a recession in 9 months. I'm just wondering if you can comment.
Well, the president, I think, has taken China on for the first time in 30 years. I can tell you this, if we don't deal with China's cheating behavior, their manipulation of their currency, their intellectual property theft, they will eventually weaken and destroy the world economy. So here are your choices. Take them on now, feel some pain now, or get devastated later. We live in a world where there are no easy solutions. So I support the president putting tariffs on Chinese products that are shipped into the United States under conditions we would not allow here. They manipulate the value of their currency, which lowers the cost of Chinese goods. They steal our intellectual property and knock it off and send it in here. They make you hire a Chinese business partner if you do business inside of China. They have cheap labor. They have no environmental laws, and we have to compete with all of that. So from the president's point of view, I think he's doing the right thing by taking China on, and we're going to experience some pain. But if you don't pay the price now, it only gets worse later.
Thank you very much.
Yes.